we begin with a topic that lies at the very foundation of human well-being, our health. Because the way we understand healing reflects how we understand the human being as a whole. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Dikmen, a medical doctor, lecturer and specialist in traditional and complementary medicine, currently affiliated with Cyprus International University and pursuing advanced research in this field. Her work focuses on integrative healing approaches, particularly homeopathy, exploring how the body's natural self-regulatory mechanism can be supported through holistic and sustainable methods. Dr. Ipek Nurdan Dikmen adopts a holistic approach to health by integrating her professional knowledge, clinical experience, and personal expertise. Her mission is to support individuals in achieving a healthier, happier, more peaceful and safer life, and to contribute to the development of this vision through her work. With a multidisciplinary perspective combining medicine, neurobiology, and systems thinking, she brings an important contribution to the future of healthcare. Today, she will present Sustainable Medicine for a Holistic Future, the Systemic Healing Mechanisms of Homeopathy. Please join me in warmly welcoming her. Please, Dr. Dikmen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me share my presentation. So, dear President, distinguished members of the IHUD Organizing Committee, and esteemed participants, it's truly an honor and privilege to be here today. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the IHUD team and especially to the President for the kind invitation and the opportunity to contribute to this meaningful dialogue. IHUD represents more than a conference. It represents a shared vision, a vision that seeks harmony between science, humanity, and sustainability. Today, I'm delighted to present my talk entitled Integrative Approaches in Healing, the Role of Homeopathy in Strengthening Human Resilience within the Integral World Framework. In this presentation, I will explore how health can be understood not merely as the absence of disease, but as adaptive organization within interconnected systems, and how integrative models may contribute to strengthening this adaptive capacity within the broader integral world perspective. Thank you for your presence, and I look forward to sharing this journey with you. Today, I would like to invite you to rethink health. Health is not merely the absence of disease. It's the expression of a living system capable of adapting to changing conditions and continuously reorganizing itself. The human body is not a fixed structure. It's a dynamic organism that constantly seeks balance, responds, and recalibrates. However, we now understand that human health, or more precisely, human adaptive capacity, is no longer solely an individual matter. Global stressor, environmental changes, and societal transformations demonstrate that human health cannot be separated from its planetary context. Modern immunology and homeopathic dough converge on a single fundamental principle: the regulation of endogenous healing mechanisms. The immune system, together with its neuroendocrine network, represents the core biological expression of the self-regulating intelligence. Resilience is not merely the suppression of symptoms, but the system's capacity to reorganize under stress and restore balance. In the integral world perspective, healing means re-establishing systemic harmony across biological, physiological, and ecological dimensions. We are witnessing a convergence of crises. Chronic inflammatory diseases are increasing globally. Trauma exposure has become widespread. Environmental destabilization is affecting psychological stress regulation. At the same time, pharmaceutical residues are now measurable in water systems and soil. This is not simply a medical issue, it's a systems level instability. According to the World Health Organization, chronic diseases, which classified as non-communicable diseases, account for approximately 43 million deaths annually, representing nearly 3/4 of global mortality. These diseases are long-term, slowly progressive, and closely linked to behavioral and environmental stressors. Chronic illness today is not merely biological. It's relational, ecological, and systemic. For the first time in modern history, emerging data suggests that in some regions, younger generations may have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. Chronic inflammatory and neurodevelopmental disorders are increasing in childhood. In adults, lifestyle-related and immune-mediated diseases now dominate health statistics. This landscape suggests that a medical model based solely on symptom prevention may not be sufficient for long-term health improvement. If health is understood as the adaptive self-organizing capacity within interconnected systems, then therapeutic models must aim to restore regulatory balance. If the problem is chronic dysregulation, the therapeutic goal should be regulatory restoration. From a sustainability perspective, medicine should be evaluated not only by short-term clinical outcomes, but also by its long-term ecological, economic, and societal impacts. Therapeutic systems that operate through regulatory stimulation rather than material intensity may have the potential to reduce environmental burden while simultaneously supporting adaptive resilience. In this sense, sustainability is not an external addition to the healthcare within the integral world framework. It becomes an intrinsic criterion of responsible healing. Today, chronic diseases are increasingly defined not by acute pathology, but by systemic dysregulation. Prolonged stress responses disrupt immune, endocrine, and autonomic balance, weakening the organism's adaptive capacity. For this reason, health models must evolve beyond intervention-based approaches towards models that actively support regulation and adaptation. This perspective is consistent with the World Health Organization's call for integrated, person-centered, and sustainable health frameworks that recognize the interdependence of human, societal, and ecological systems. The integral world framework reflects this understanding by viewing the world not as fragmented, but as an interconnected whole in which human beings, society, nature, and even levels of consciousness are dynamically related. The World Health Organization's Global Traditional Medicine Strategy 2025-2034 presents a global vision for positioning evidence-based, traditional, complementary, and integrative medicine within sustainable, person-centered, and integrated health systems. This global vision conceptually aligns with the integral growth approach, which understands health not merely as a clinical outcome, but as a balanced and sustainable organization among human beings, society, and ecosystems. In recent years, healthcare systems have become increasingly dependent on pharmaceutical interventions. However, adverse drug reactions and treatment-related complications contribute significantly to morbidity and mortality. At the same time, although national health budgets allocate substantial financial resources to medications, the prevalence of chronic diseases continues to rise. This mismatch between cost and health outcomes suggests that system priorities and long-term sustainability must be re-evaluated. If we are questioning the long-term sustainability of pharmaceutical-dependent healthcare systems, we must confront a deeper reality. The biological effect of pharmaceutical substances extend beyond the individual body into water systems, soil, and broader ecosystems. Current wastewater treatment technologies are unable to fully eliminate these residues. As chemical intensity increases, the impact of healthcare interventions extend beyond individual psychology and diffuses into environmental systems. Therefore, not only the economic burden of healthcare systems, but also their ecological footprint must be critically evaluated. Without planetary health, the sustainability of human health is not possible. If we speak of the integral world, we must also consider the ecological consequences of treatment as an essential component of healthcare depends on restoring balance between human and ecological systems. Then we need to explore regulatory-based therapeutic models with a low ecological footprints that prioritize systemic harmony. Homeopathy is positioned as one of the regulatory around this principle. Homeopathy is a therapeutic method developed 1796 by the German physician, pharmacist, and chemist Samuel Hahnemann. It's based on specific laws and principles. The term homeopathy derives from the Greek words homeos, similar, and pathos, disease. Its fundamental principles include Similia Similibus Curentur, like cures like, individualization, and the use of minimal doses. Homeopathy adopts an individualized, patient-centered approach to assessment and aims to stimulate the organism's self-regulatory capacity. In this framework, therapeutic action is understood as the modulation of biological response rather than direct pharmaceutical suppression. For over 200 years, homeopathy has been practiced worldwide and continues to exist as part of the complementary and integrative health care systems. Although homeopathy has historically been defined by the principle of like cures like and its individualized approach, its clinical logic is more clearly understood through a regulatory perspective. Within this framework, symptoms are not viewed as isolated problems, but as expressions of a systemic imbalance. The remedy is considered an informational stimulus intended to activate the organism's self-regulatory mechanisms. The ultimate goal is adaptive rebalancing, with the focus placed not on individual symptoms, but on the overall response of the system. Within the vision of the integral world, sustainability is not an option. Healthcare must protect not only the patient, but also the planet. By employing ultra-low material doses, homeopathy implies minimal pharmaceutical residues and a reduced ecological burden. It's positioned as a complementary and system-supportive approach within multidisciplinary care. Healing should not harm the systems upon which it depends. The fundamental question, therefore, is whether regulatory stimulation can measurably strengthen adaptive system organization. Our central question is this: can resilience be supported by activating the organism's intrinsic self-regulatory mechanisms? The idea we are discussing today is not new. Nearly 2,500 years ago, Hippocrates, widely regarded as the father of medicine, stated that treatment aims to restore the body's balance. In one of the foundational texts of Hippocratic medicine, Epidemics, the statement "the same things that cause diseases also cure them" represents a significant conceptual turning point in the medical science. Whether an agent produces disease or healing depends on its dose and on the condition of the organism. What ultimately matters is not merely the substance itself, but the response of the organism to that substance. This requires a shift from an approach focused on molecular presence to a perspective that examines system-level reorganization. Rather than asking which material component is detectable, we ask how a biological system reorganizes under informational stimulation. This system-based approach aligns with the integral world framework, which defines health as adaptive organization within interconnected human and ecological systems. Within this conceptual framework, the studies presented in the literature are designed to investigate whether homeopathic preparations are associated with measurable changes in biological system behavior and indicators of resilience. Emerging exploratory research begin precisely at this point. In recent years, exploratory research has examined whether system-level behavioral changes can be observed in association with homeopathic preparations. Rather than relying solely on theoretical assumptions, these studies aim to identify measurable physical indicators. The emphasis is placed on the adaptive responses of the system. It's important to note that these findings are preliminary in nature and should be regarded as exploratory investigations rather than definitive conclusions. Some theoretical interpretations propose that homeopathy operates through a resonance-like regulatory principle. Within this perspective, health is understood as the system functions as an organized and coherent whole, whereas disease is interpreted as a disturbance or alteration of systemic patterns. The concept of simillimum is therefore viewed not merely as symptomatic similarity, but sometimes as a potential correspondence or matching between system patterns. In this context, a study conducted by the German biochemist Dr. Karin Langer, known for her system-level measurement research, investigated under controlled conditions whether measurable physical traces, such as delayed luminescence signals, are associated with homeopathic preparations. Observations suggested that homeopathic remedies may carry physical energy and information, potentially reflected in their magnetic and photonic properties. These findings are exploratory and hypothesis generating in nature. Today, do not confirm a final mechanism, however, they contribute to the scientific discussion on whether at the system level to subtle physical stimuli. Biomedical science has traditionally focused on molecular presence. However, complex biological systems are defined not only by their, but by their reflex developments in systems biology, approached as a measurable regular, understood not as isolated molecular events, but as organized system behavior. The next logical step is to explore physical methods capable of assessing measurable pattern differentiation and adaptive coherence at the system level. The droplet evaporation method is a technique that analyzes the physical organization a liquid exhibits during the drying process rather than focusing primarily on its chemical composition. In a study reporting statistically distinguishable pattern differences between biocomponent homeopathic preparations, droplet evaporation method was proposed as a complementary tool for assessing system-level physicochemical characteristics under controlled conditions. Fast Fourier transform is a mathematical analysis method that transforms the spatial organization within an image or signal into frequency components. Rather than identifying chemical content, it makes the mode of system organization visible. In a study applying this method to evaluate system organization, the highly dilated homeopathic remedy sample exhibited a more distinct, radially organized, and symmetrical pattern extending from the center outward. In contrast, the tap water sample displayed a more irregular, less symmetrical, and lower coherence distribution. Within the context of the study, this difference was interpreted as an exploratory observation, suggesting that measurable pattern differentiation in physical organization of droplets may be possible. Within this framework, homeopathy is considered a system-level regulatory stimulus, but to help restore coherence. The observed pattern differentiation brings into focus the measurable dimension of adaptive organization in biological and physical systems, establishing a conceptual parallel with the integral world framework, which understands health as system-based and adaptive organization. At the same time, this perspective is directly connected to sustainability. Regulatory balance and adaptive coherence may reduce dependence on high material intensity interventions, thereby lowering environmental burden and supporting the long-term stability of both human and planetary systems. In this sense, coherence is not only a biological concept, but also a foundation principle of sustainability. Sustainability in healthcare does not refer solely to financial balance. It also encompasses environmental protection and social responsibility. The whole person health framework emphasizes the interconnected dimensions of well-being rather than isolated symptoms. Preventive approaches aim to strengthen adaptive capacity before irreversible pathologies develop. A future-oriented healthcare strategy must take into account both planetary health and the holistic development of the human being. Global health strategies are increasingly recognizing the role of complementary approaches within regulated frameworks. The WHO encourages member states to integrate safe and evidence-based traditional medicine practices into their national health systems. Expanding therapeutic diversity may reduce overdependence on high-cost, high-impact pharmaceutical models. Ultimately, sustainable healthcare requires the balanced and evidence-informed integration of innovation, prevention, and ecological responsibility. From a sustainability perspective, healthcare should be evaluated not only by its clinical success, but also by its ecological impact. Therapeutic models that operate with low material intensity and minimal chemical burden may constitute an important component of sustainable medicine. Reduced pharmaceutical residues and limited resource consumption help decrease environmental burden while supporting system resilience. Ultimately, sustainable healthcare requires a balanced integration of effectiveness, safety, and environmental responsibility, because healing should not harm the systems upon which it depends. If sustainable healthcare requires balancing therapeutic benefit with ecological responsibility, then the question arises, how should this balance be positioned within a holistic framework? The integral world perspective offers a conceptual foundation for such integration. Homeopathy builds a conceptual bridge between systems-based biology, adaptive resilience, and ecological responsibility. Its individualized treatment approach and minimum dose principle are conceptually aligned with the principles of whole person health. Ultimately, the future of healthcare may depend not only the technological advancement, but also on integrative models that promote adaptive harmony within individuals, communities, and the planet. Within the integral world framework, can be positioned as part of an interdisciplinary and sustainability-oriented dialogue. The internal world framework calls for interconnected, sustainable, and system-oriented models of healthcare. When ethically integrated, homeopathy may contribute to regulatory resilience, potentially supporting adaptive capacity while reducing the ecological burden associated with pharmaceutical interventions. All these conceptual frameworks, scientific observations, system-level measurements, and sustainability discussions ultimately convergence on one fundamental point: the need to rethink healing as the restoration of adaptive harmony between humans and the planet. Human beings, society, and ecosystems are not separate. Within the integral world, healing is understood as the re-establishment of between human biology and planetary ecology. We are making the limits of science transparent. Before I conclude, I would like to express my deep gratitude to the teachers who transmitted this knowledge across generations. I share a historical image from early homeopathic hospitals and schools as a symbol of continuity between past and future. May we move forward with wisdom, responsibility, and compassion, and may we contribute westward. I wish you all a healthy and meaningful life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dikmen, for this inspiring talk and lecture for us to give us a deep insight. And